Hello, everybody, and welcome to Sake Revolution. This is America's first sake podcast, and I am one of your hosts. My name is John Puma from the Sake Notes. I'm also the administrator over at the Internet Sake Discord, a nice little community for people to get together and talk sake.
And I am your host, Timothy Sullivan. I'm a sake samurai, sake educator, as well as the founder of the Urban Sake website. And every week, John and I will be here tasting and chatting about all things sake and doing our best to make it fun and easy to understand.
Here we go again, Tim. We're back for another exciting episode. And I don't think we've done one of these in a while.
Yes, and this was actually a listener request, which we always love to receive.
Yeah. So number one, listener request. And number two, we're going to do a little prefectural visit, a little prefecture deep dive, which I think is always a lot of fun. I like these episodes.
Yes.
They help me to kind of dig around and find out things about prefectures and parts of Japan that I didn't know. And, I come out a little wiser. Yeah.
And I know this is a prefecture that you and I have both visited, so we'll both have our stories to share. Do you want to tell our listeners where we're going today?
We are going to Miyagi.
Ooh, Miyagi. So where's Miyagi situated in Japan?
Miyagi's in the Tohoku region. Now, people may remember when they hear the word Tohoku, sometimes people remember the earthquake and the accompanying disaster went along with it from 2011, March 2011. Obviously, a very, very tragic time for that region of Japan, for that whole area. And Miyagi is a part of that, area, and they did suffer damage as a result.
And Tohoku is the northern part of the main island, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. So we're talking north of Tokyo by, I want to say, on the Shinkansen, you're about 2.5 hours, I want to say.
Yep. And it's facing the Pacific Ocean. So it's on the Pacific Ocean side of the main island of Japan in the north. And it's a prefecture that has a few famous things and some great sake, which we'll talk about in a bit. Mm-hmm. Now, when I think of Miyagi, I think about some of the famous food that comes from there as well. One dish that I confronted, I'll say.
Confronted, all right.
One food that I came across in my travels through Miyagi was gyutan. Do you know what that is?
That's that beef tongue?
That is beef tongue.
Aha! Ooh.
The food that tastes you back.
Nice.
So gyutan is the beef tongue, very famous from Sendai, which is the capital of Miyagi, and from the Miyagi region. Beef tongue is one of those dishes that if they don't tell you what it is and you just eat it, it is really delicious and super soft. But the moment you know it's beef tongue, it's a little challenging for some people. But the way that I encountered gyutan in Sendai was kind of amazing, and I'll always remember this. I got a bento box. It was purchased for me at the Sendai train station, and it was a self-heating bento box.
That's awesome.
Have you ever seen those before?
I've heard of them, but I've never used one. I've never seen one in the flesh.
It looks like a regular cardboard bento box, and it has a yellow string hanging out of the side. And you pull the string out, and that releases some chemical. It's almost like a cool pack underneath, but for hotness. And some chemicals combine under there, and it heats up. And the rice and the gyutan, the beef tongue, start to bubble away, and it gets really hot. And it is the most bizarre thing. You're sitting on the bullet train with this little cardboard box in front of you, and it starts to bubble and steam out of like magic. It was insane. And again, if you don't know what you're eating, it was really delicious. So
I'm into it.
Yeah.
That sounds really good. The beef tongue part, I'm a little less excited about.
Yeah.
But the self-heating bento sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, and if you have a little Sendai sake on the side, it's like perfect. So what other foods do you know from Miyagi Prefecture?
So for me, when I think of Miyagi Prefecture, I first think of Mr. Miyagi, the
Wax on, wax off.
the guiding character from the Karate Kid from when I was a kid. But no, kidding aside, I think of the sanma, that Pacific Surrey pike fish, because I had an experience with that as well. At a sake brewery visit, we had dinner with the Kuramoto afterward, and he was very pleased that his chef was from Sendai. This brewery was not in Sendai, and one of the courses he was very happy about was a sanma that was stewed for several days, and then you would just eat through the entire fish with your chopsticks. Like you can cut the fish with the chopsticks.
Yeah.
All of it, Tim. I mean, it's bones, all of it, because they're melted from being stewed for a couple of days. Like for being in that low heat for that long, everything kind of gets the same texture, almost.
Yeah.
This is another one of those situations where if you don't know what it is delicious. The flavoring was perfect. It's wonderful. But when you know what you're doing and you're going through all the different textures when you're eating it, it gets a little frightening at times, especially for my easily frightened Western palate. It was quite an experience.
Yeah. Well, it's a wonderful place to visit. I have had great experiences in Miyagi. I think you have too. And as I mentioned a moment ago, Sendai is the capital of Miyagi Prefecture, about 1 million people. And there's a famous guy who's kind of the key figure, the key historical figure, right?
Yeah, and he's got a famous look.
Yes.
Too. So Date Masamune.
Right.
He founded Sendai in the year 1600, and he was a daimyo, like a warlord, kind of in that period of history where they were just kind of like figuring it out, right? And he's known for kind of wearing this like iconic black armor, and is often depicted with this like really exaggeratedly large crescent moon, like a medallion, I guess you want to say, on the helmet of his armor.
Yep.
It's very, very distinctive. You've probably seen this character before, or like depictions of him one way or the other. And rumor has it, although I've not been able to substantiate this, is that the visual aesthetic that's prescribed to Masamune was a lot of the influence for Ralph McQuarrie's sketches of Darth Vader back in the 70s when they were doing Star Wars. Yeah,
if you look at the shape of Date Masamune's helmet, his black helmet, and then you look at Darth Vader, it's pretty similar. I think
it's almost like lawsuit worthy at times.
If this were Mythbusters, I think this myth would be confirmed,
right? Yeah, that's what they said. Mythbusters hasn't been on for a long time, Tim. I got to think about that. But yeah, apparently also he was called Doku Ganryu, the one-eyed dragon of Oshu, because apparently he had a missing eye as well.
Oh yeah, he wore an eye patch.
Yeah. So he's like even more of a badass than originally let on.
And not only was he a total badass and founded the city, but he also brought sake brewing to Sendai. So he was a big fan of sake.
He's my favorite samurai now.
Yeah. When he became the daimyo, the warlord, about 4 years after he got started there, he summoned brewers from Nara and founded his own sake production in his castle. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So he is revered for being the founder of the city, but for sake people, he's also revered for being a big sake lover too.
I've actually only been to Sendai as far as Miyagi Prefecture goes, and then I had only been to Sendai for one day.
Oh.
But I do want everybody to know at home that, like, when I said earlier that you can get there in 2 hours on the bullet train, I really mean it. It's extremely convenient and very easy to get to Sendai from like Tokyo Station. So you can go there, do a day trip, get around. If for some reason it doesn't fit into your schedule to stay overnight, just get on the train, go back to Tokyo, and go back to your hotel room. You'll be able to spend a full day. I mean, think about your commute now. You probably spend more than an hour going to work. It's not that bad to just 2 hours.
I was almost on the subway for 2 hours going to Brooklyn today. You could
There
get
you
to
go.
Sendai and back from Tokyo.
You can do that. Well, no, it's 4 hours total because you got to go 2 hours each way. Yeah. But as you were describing, the Shinkansen experience is wonderful, and you might even get a self-warming bento box of some kind. Who knows?
It is a life-changing experience.
Yes. Now, when I went to Sendai, we were there to go to a sake brewery, and it was one that we'll get to talking about in a little bit. But on the way to the brewery, we're going up this hill, and at the top of the hill was the largest statue I've ever seen in my life. And it was terrifying, like, just because you could tell it's really far away, and your brain doesn't really process the idea that, like, this thing is this big, therefore it needs to be this distance, needs to be close. It's obviously very far. How does this work? And this statue is actually called the Sendai Daikanon, and it is one of the tallest statues on Earth. In fact, when it was first built in 1991, it was the tallest statue. It's now been superseded. It's now, in 2022, the sixth tallest statue, and it's 100 meters tall. It's a big, big statue, Tim.
Yeah.
And it's a representation of the Buddhist goddess of mercy. And again, it's huge. And one little thing they did when the pandemic started was they put a really huge mask on her.
You're kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you. We will put a photo in the show notes of the Sendai Daikanon with the mask. It's very, very adorable.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do we know about sake in Miyagi Prefecture? Let's see here.
I like a lot of sake from Miyagi Prefecture. That's what I know. What about you? What do you know?
We could talk just a bit about the history. So the
Sure.
Sake Brewers Association was founded in 1891, which is pretty early for a prefectural association to be founded. And in 1986, the Brewers Association proclaimed the prefecture's flagship style, and they declared it to be Junmai sake. So Junmai is kind of officially the style of the prefecture. And Miyagi actually does produce more Junmai per capita than other prefectures. 55% of Miyagi sake production is Junmai, compared to the national average of about 22% Junmai.
And when you say Junmai, are you referring to Junmai as opposed to Aruten, or Junmai as that particular sake level?
My understanding is that they're referring to Junmai versus alcohol added sake. So any grade of Junmai, but Junmai as a collective. So putting the emphasis on the pure rice style versus the alcohol added style. So they produce a lot more of that than the national average. And there's about 25 sake breweries in Miyagi. Yeah. And you mentioned the Tohoku earthquake that happened in March 2011. And of the 25 breweries in Miyagi, 6 were completely destroyed.
Oh, that's terrible.
3 suffered very heavy damage, and 14 of the 25 were partially damaged. And you would think 6 being completely destroyed, that we would now have 19 breweries in Miyagi. But through support of the community, the Japanese government, the prefectural government, and support of the sake industry, all 6 destroyed breweries were rebuilt and are back in commission. So there are still 25 breweries in Miyagi. So they didn't lose any breweries despite the extreme damage that many breweries suffered. So that is a kind of a ray of sunshine on that horrible chapter of history in Miyagi.
Yeah. That was kind of terrible. But yeah, it is really nice that these breweries were able to recover and come back. And that whole Tohoku region has a stellar reputation for sake quality, and Miyagi is no different.
Right.
They are definitely a part of that. When you think of breweries from Miyagi, I think of the one we're going to talk about today, which I'm not going to mention yet. I also think of Urakasumi.
Oh, yeah. Urakasumi is a brewery I got to visit twice. They make wonderful sake, and they're really famous for their junmai. Urakasumi junmai is really well-known sake from that region, and it's a wonderful, wonderful brewery. They experienced pretty severe flooding from the earthquake, but they have rebuilt and raised up some of their brewery buildings and are back in production and doing great. So Urakasumi is a great brand. Do you know any other well-known brands from Miyagi?
I am a big fan of Ichinokura.
Oh, yeah. That is a
Speaking of junmai.
Yes.
I think that their junmai, I think it's actually Tokubetsu junmai, is my perfect example of like honest, hard-working junmai, like, after work kind of, with your izakaya foods. It's so perfect for that kind of thing. It's that, that a little bit ricey, a little bit light, kind of goes with everything, pretty dry, good stuff.
I love the way you describe that. Honest, hardworking junmai. It's like your workaday junmai that is really premium and smooth and delicious.
Yeah.
I like
and,
that.
And that could be like the way I was introduced to it, but it was really good stuff, and I still drink it today. It's still wonderful.
So there's another famous brewery in Miyagi.
Yes, there is.
You and I have both visited there, and we're going to be trying their sake today. So what brewery are we going to be enjoying with our Miyagi today?
Well, when we talk about Miyagi, we have to talk about Sendai, and we can't talk about Sendai without talking about Katsuyama Supreme Sake Corporation.
All right.
You're not cutting any corners. You're calling yourself Katsuyama Supreme Sake Corporation. That's awesome.
Yeah. Katsuyama is a fantastic brewery in Sendai City in Miyagi Prefecture. They're not the largest brewery by any stretch, but they specialize kind of in, wouldn't you say, like a luxury style of sake?
They do. They specialize in very high-end sake. A lot of their sake is a little on the expensive side. Mm-hmm. It is a premium brand, a luxury brand, by and large. Although they do make plenty of products that are not exclusively in that category. They're they're known for that. They're known for those like really high-end sakes. Yep. But they do really make wonderful, wonderful stuff. When I visited, the Kurumoto was telling us a little bit about how when they were building this facility, this brewery, he really wanted to make a focus on making, his dream brewery for making this style of sake, for making this like luxury style of sake. And once they did that and they started brewing from the new brewery, the brand really kind of took off. And now he's like, well, I made my dream brewery for where we were, and now I have a new dream brewery in mind, and it's just this, but a lot bigger. Because you get to this place where you're like, oh wow, now I need to make more of this, because now there's a lot more demand, because it really did pick up for them and became really popular.
Yeah, they were founded back in 1688. So this is another brewery that's been around for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
They probably knew Date Masamune personally. They probably made sake for Date's family. What do you think? Probably.
If he founded Sendai in 1600, that seems unlikely. Well, he was extremely old.
Daimyo didn't live that long back then. Yeah.
Unless he founded it at birth and lived a very long life.
Well, maybe the descendants of Date Masamune.
I am certain that his children and their children enjoyed Katsuyama.
Yeah. So on my visit to Katsuyama, they have a beautiful sake brewery, but they also have a wedding venue business as well. And this is where I was received, and I was given dinner there. Mm-hmm. And as part of the wedding venue business, they have some beautiful spaces and dining rooms, but they also have a authentic wood-fired pizza oven. And I was given the most delicious pizza in the middle of Sendai. And they said to me, let's sprinkle a little sake on this pizza. And we dripped some sake on the pizza and ate it. And oh my God, it was so good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, it was great. Amazing. So that is one of my standout memories from visiting Katsuyama, was like spritzing my pizza with delicious ultra premium sake. It was fantastic. What a memory. Oh my God.
Yeah, I unfortunately had the need to try to explain, because you don't think you're going to be going to an Italian restaurant when you're in Japan.
No, you don't.
And I had to explain that I can't eat cheese. And I'm, we're in this Italian venue on the other side of the world. I'm trying to explain that I need something without any dairy in it. It worked out, though. The food was absolutely delicious.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. So this ultra luxury brand, Katsuyama, which of the sakes from them are we going to be tasting today? I don't think we can go wrong, but let us know.
This is actually a return. We had Katsuyama Ken on the show once before. Mm-hmm. This is their Junmai Ginjo. And it is Yamada Nishiki rice and is milled down to 50% of its original size. The sake meter value is +4. Acidity is 1.6. And the alcohol by volume is 16%.
All right. So this has a lot of the trademarks of a really kind of luxury, super premium sake.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what happens. And you have the bottle.
I do. And the Katsuyama bottle is unmistakable because, unlike, I want to say, almost every other sake bottle I've ever encountered, they have the Katsuyama brand crest, like bas relief, into the bottle.
So the glass has like the design kind of impressed in it. Wow.
Right. So and cool. It's not like a tiny little, like it's not like seared in or scored in. It's like the shape of the bottle. It's very, very, very well done. There's no mistaking a Katsuyama bottle.
And they do that for all their sakes across their whole range.
Mm-hmm. So
right. Well,
I think it's time to get some of this wonderful Miyagi sake into our glass.
All right.
And this is one of those situations where as soon as you take the top off the bottle, the aroma hits you instantaneously.
Yeah.
There's no getting around it. There's no pretending it's not there. You get this aroma the moment you uncork this.
Yep. It's a very outgoing aroma.
Outgoing. I like that.
Expansive aroma.
Mm-hmm. So, it's a little off-white. Well, off-white. Off-clear. It has a tiny bit of color to it. Just a tiny bit of yellowing. And this aroma is very, very nice. Very, as you mentioned, outgoing. I like outgoing as a descriptor for aroma.
Yes, I was thinking expressive aroma.
Mm-hmm.
And
I do like outgoing, though.
Very fruity, classic Ginjo aromas here.
Oh, yeah. They are not being shy with that. It's the front and center. This is a brewery that's making that luxurious style. And that style, we always think of that Ginjo that Ginjo aroma being the first thing that we notice. And it's here. It's right here.
Yeah, so melon predominates, but there's also a little bit of pineapple and grape.
A little more pineapple than I'm used to.
Yeah.
Which I think is nice.
Those tropical fruits really come through.
The tropical fruits, a lot more pineapple than I'm used to getting from this style of sake, which I think is interesting and different. I like that a lot. Usually we talk about melon a lot, and the melon is there, but the pineapple a little bit more present.
You know, when you think of creating what you might call a luxury style profile, that this is very much in line with that. It's not too light. You know, it has the aroma has some heft to it, and it is the full range of tropical fruits, very well integrated, but very expressive. And that kind of dominance of this ginjo style aroma is what a lot of people expect when you're talking about a super premium sake. So it very much fits their company profile, I think.
Absolutely. I think it is time to give this a taste.
Okay.
Tim, you know how sometimes we talk about how doing this show requires us, on occasion, to drink sake that is outside of our comfort zone? Mm-hmm. That is not today. Today we have our feet up in our comfort zone, very comfortable, very relaxed comfort zone.
Yeah, so this is rich and silky smooth. It has quite a lot of texture to it, so the weight is there.
The texture is wonderful. There is a nice bit of acidity on the finish here. I'm not used to getting this kind of body with that kind of finish. If that makes sense. You mentioned how like this texture is so nice, and it balances nicely with everything else that's going on.
Yeah, for me, the aroma and the palate, the flavor of this sake match perfectly. Sometimes we smell it and it's like, I don't want to drink this, and we taste it. Oh, it's delicious. And the aroma and the flavor are divorced from each other. But this sake, they're so well matched.
Yeah.
Right? Don't you think?
It's so well matched that when I was sipping it, I didn't even think to bring that up because it didn't even occur to me because it was so well integrated. And when you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, of course it's doing that. That's wonderful. And it is remarkably well integrated. The aroma and the flavor of this, everything is in perfect harmony.
Yeah. And that's not easy to do. So that attests to the skills of the brewers.
Yeah. If it were easy to do, everybody would be doing it.
Yes. Now, you and I have both met the Isawa family. Heizo Isawa is the Kuramoto, or the brewery president. And his daughter, Yuka Isawa, is a brand representative.
That's right.
And she's a big cheerleader for the sake industry, and she's an up-and-coming promoter of sake and very involved with her father's brewery. And they're a lovely, lovely family. And before the pandemic, they would come to New York often, and we would always have lovely interactions with them at sake events. And it's so wonderful to sip their sake and think about all the wonderful conversations we've had together and nice dinners we've had. It's really great.
And while we're talking about Yuka Izawa, she has another business that we should mention. Mikura, which is Micura. We'll put a link in the show notes. And what she does is she sells sake brewing kits from Japan over to overseas customers. She has to sell them to overseas customers. Why, Tim?
Because it's illegal to home brew in Japan.
That's mind-blowing to me, but yes, that's exactly right. When I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, "What? That can't be right." But yeah, it is. Home brewing is not legal there, but it is in the United States, and I think that to get, if you're going to get people excited about sake, or you have people who are excited about sake who want to start brewing it, having an avenue for them to get their hands on the supplies needed to do this is great, and it's something that could spur, the next domestic brewery one day.
Now, John, have you ever done Yuka's Mikura kit? Have you ever tried to brew sake with it?
Yes.
You have?
I was one of the first people who bought the kit.
What happened?
It did not go well for me, but there are temperature control reasons in my apartment that are outside of my power to influence.
Yep.
And I was way too aggressive and did not wait till it was winter. which is another bad thing I should have done. Yep. What I should have done is probably did it in winter and probably did it like on my fire escape or something like that. Because I live in a pre-war building in New York, and what that means is that in the wintertime, my apartment is anywhere from 85 to 90 degrees all of the time.
Yes. Blasting the steam heat. Yeah.
Yes. We have no control over this heat.
Yeah.
It's just there always and everywhere. It makes it really difficult to do things like this. And then unless you've got like a really substantial like fridge or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I did not, and I should have waited, and I didn't wait, and I screwed up my sake. I have nobody to blame but myself.
Well, I think we should try again.
I'm ready. I'm ready
we
for
should both
this.
Get a kit, and that would be really fun. So
right.
Check the show notes if you want to order the home brewing kit from Katsuyama. I'm curious, but I'm also really scared because it could go sideways.
We'll both do a kit, and then we'll give each other a sample of each other's sake, and then we'll do a little episode where we drink, Sullivan Kura sake.
And Puma Kura. Well,
is that what you would call yours? Sullivan Kura?
I don't know. But I
Urban Kura?
I hope we don't poison each other. That would be a sad way to end the podcast.
Yeah. The short version is mine died.
Your fermentation died.
My fermentation died.
Oh. Well, you got to get back up on that horse, John. And
yep.
We got to try again.
One day I will.
So that won't happen anytime soon because we need to get those kits from Japan. But check the show notes if you're interested. And we may have a future episode with the Revolution team home brewing. Oh, sounds
Tim,
dangerous.
You're writing checks. I don't know if I can cash.
Sounds dangerous. Well, this is a lovely sake from Katsuyama. Everything they make is fantastic. It's definitely on the luxury side of the spectrum. So if you like that velvety, silky, richer style, this brewery is definitely one to check out.
And I do.
Yes. We could do another Bougie Brews episode and have more Katsuyama anytime. Well, this was a great pick. Really fun to talk about Miyagi. Can't wait to go back when we're allowed. Really looking forward to that. Great to taste with you, John. Wonderful to see you again.
Always is, Tim. Always.
And I also want to thank our listeners for tuning in again this week. We really do hope that you're enjoying Sake Revolution. Now, if you would like to show your support for our show, the best way to help us out now is to join our community on Patreon. We are a listener-supported show, and all the support and donations we receive from our patrons allow us to host, edit, and produce a podcast for you each and every week.
And if you'd like to know more about our Patreon and how to become a patron, visit patreon.com/sakerevolution. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or any of your podcast platforms of choice, or just going out and spreading the word about Sake Revolution to your friends and your family, and you get them to comment and like and subscribe and all that other fun stuff.
And as always, if you would like to learn more about any of the topics, prefectures, or individual sakes we talked about in today's episode or any of our previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, sakerevolution.com, and there you can see the show notes and also a transcript of each and every episode.
And if you want to reach out to us directly, and I know you do, or if you have a sake question that you need answered, if you have an episode suggestion like the one we just did, we want to hear from you. Please reach out to us. The email address is feedback@sakerevolution.com. If email is not your thing, you can also slide into our DMs on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. On Instagram, we are Sake Revolution Pod, and everywhere else, we're just Sake Revolution. You'll find us. Just Google us. You'll get it. So until next time, please remember to keep drinking your sake, raise a glass, and kanpai.